Happy Wednesday, folks, and welcome to edition 348 of #AskGSM here today for Wednesday, July 29th, 2020. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Drop your question on the post that I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And I say usually because I actually completely forgot to put up the question last night for the questions. Put up the post last night asking for your questions for today's video. So I apologize about that. I know FD is usually the one that sends in his questions through the Facebook post, so I apologize. The thing is that before we go any further, Twitter has this awesome new scheduling option where you can schedule tweets in advance. And I actually use that all the time now. So like when I promote this show or Wrestle Rant Radio or actually ask for your questions on Twitter, you may notice that the tweet goes up now every single Tuesday at 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. Eastern time. That's because I scheduled it to do that. That's the time that I would usually put up the tweet anyway. But now that there's a scheduling option, I just schedule it like either earlier in the day or on Monday, whatever. Just because, more often than not, you would think 7 years into doing this show, I wouldn't forget to put up the tweet or the Facebook post asking for the questions. But 7 years later, and I still do. And sometimes I've gone so far as to put it up on Wednesday mornings. I've forgotten. I've forgotten up until like 10 or 11 o'clock at night sometimes. RJ actually texted me on my birthday last month saying, hey, are you doing hashtag this week? I didn't see the tweet asking for the questions, and I was like, holy shit, and it was like 11:30 at night. So I'm glad that the pros and the cons of the scheduling option now is that I can schedule the tweet to ask for your guys' questions ahead of time. The issue with that is because when I do that and I schedule the tweet for like Tuesday, and I do that on Monday, I completely forget to put up the Facebook post. Now, I think there's a scheduling option for that as well. It's not quite as easy for Facebook pages to schedule a post and shit like that. I might have to start doing that just so I don't forget it in the future, but that's why. So you can also send in a question by leaving a comment or question down below on the comment section on this very video. I'll include all the questions in next week's edition if I see fit. So before we go any further, real quickly, check out my exclusive interview. I know this has been a weekly thing at this point. We're going to have two this week, once again. So first, check out my exclusive interview with Johnny Gargano before NXT tonight as he faces Roderick Strong in one-on-one action. Great time talking to Johnny about all things Roderick Strong, his dream match at a TakeOver 30 coming up next month, working with Candace. We talk Marvel, we talk Disney Plus, we talk Star Wars, we talk his dog. We talk a lot of cool stuff, so check that out right now on dailyddt.com. And like I said, it's been a weekly thing. Last week I talked to Kyrie and Cross. 2 weeks ago it was Tegan Knox. 3 weeks ago, I don't remember. I think 3 weeks ago is Drake Maverick, if I'm not mistaken. And I think the week before that was Roderick Strong. So there's been a lot of awesome interviews going up right now on dailyddt.com, courtesy of yours truly. So check that out right now on the website with Johnny Gargano, the heart, soul, and face of NXT, right now on dailyddt.com. Like I said, so there's two interviews going up this week. First, the Johnny one, which is up right now as we speak. And then there's another one going up on Friday with a member of the main roster. So I won't reveal who that is just yet, at least here, in this video. But I do plan to schedule a tweet announcing who it is tomorrow on Thursday morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. The interview's being done at 1 p.m. The article's going up on Friday, first thing Friday morning. So check that interview out when it goes up on Friday on Bleacher Report. And stay tuned to see who it is tomorrow on my Twitter page at WrestleRant at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. So without further ado, let's get started here first with Noah Laura from YouTube. Their first question was, what match do you think put Impact Wrestling on the map? For me personally, I think it was AJ Styles versus Samoa Joe versus Daniels in 2005 for the X Division Championship. I would agree. I wasn't watching TNA at that point. I wasn't watching wrestling back in 2005. So it's hard for me to say, oh, this was the one match that put them on the map. I'm only really speaking retrospectively here. But I would say that match. I would say if there's any one match from that early era of TNA, those early years, that people still talk about to this day. And I think it was either RJ or someone else asked me about it here on hashtag a couple of weeks ago. When Alexis was here, we were doing, I think, the live video, and someone asked about it. I think that it was that match. It was Daniels, Styles, and Joe, and we have yet to watch it back. I've actually seen it already, and I fucking love the match. I've seen it multiple times. She has not, but I will show it to her soon, I'm hoping. I do have an Impact Plus subscription service, so I'm hoping to show it to her soon enough on that. And anyway, so it's an amazing match. Yeah, I would say that's probably the match that got Impact the most amount of buzz, I would say. Actually, it wasn't RJ, it was someone else, because I forgot who it was. I think it was at Iwagu91 from Twitter. They had asked if I knew if that was the only TNA match that was rated 5 stars. And it is, which is actually quite amazing that TNA's been around for fucking, 18 years at this point, since 2002, and that's their only 5-star rated match from Dave Meltzer. It's purely opinion. Of course, it's one man's opinion. It's a pretty prominent opinion, but it's one guy's opinion. I think they've had a lot of great matches in the last 10 years or so alone. Maybe not 5 stars, but I love James Storm versus Bobby Roode from Bound for Glory 2012. I loved Austin Aries versus Bobby Roode from Destination X that same year. The Beer Money and Motor City Machine Guns matches and tag team action from, I want to say, the whole effing show in 2010. The whole series of matches were great, but they had one truly amazing match. It was either that or Victory Road 2010, where they just fucking blew the roof off the place. It was a best of 5 series for the tag team titles. Those matches were great as well. Again, there's been a lot of good ones. EC3 versus Drake Maverick in England on Impact about 5 years ago was also really, really good. Taryn Terrell and Gail Kim, that last woman standing match. It was either at Slammiversary on Impact. I think it was Slammiversary. They had an amazing match. AJ had some kick-ass matches. AJ and Kurt versus Kaz and Daniels at Slammiversary 2012 was an amazing match. But anyway, you're talking about that one specifically. Yeah, I would say that match, that 3-way between Styles, Joe, and Daniels, did indeed put Impact on the map back in 2005. Their second question, do you think the Adam Cole incident was a work or a shoot? I mean, it's so clearly a work. Now, the fact that people are questioning whether it's a work or a shoot obviously indicates that it's a work. I mean, it's not always a work. Some things that have happened are a shoot, like Dean Ambrose leaving. People thought that was a work. I've, talked about certain things before, like why would people think this is a work? Like the fucking Montreal screw job, or CM Punk leaving. People thought that was a work. People thought, Dean Ambrose, Jon Moxley leaving WWE was all one elaborate work, and he's been working with WWE this entire time. Get the fuck out of here. I am the first one to admit that. But when it comes to stuff like this, yeah, we've never heard Adam Cole say fuck before, at least from what I know. I mean, I've been watching Adam Cole for several years now, dating back to his Ring of Honor days. I've never heard him drop an F-bomb. He is the most professional person I've ever seen in professional wrestling when it comes to interviews and how he carries himself. So that really took me by surprise. But they're clearly doing it as some sort of an angle. Triple H acknowledged it, I think. Pat McAfee commented on it. They're not completely ignoring it. Adam Cole put out a quote-unquote apology on Twitter. I guess we'll find out tonight on NXT if it leads anywhere, if it's building to a match. Personally, do I give a shit? Not really, about a Pat McAfee-Adam Cole match. They've had this on and off feud now on NXT programming for well over a year. They've had back and forths on Pat's show, on his podcast, on the watch-along shows. So they've gone back and forth on pre-show panels, I've noticed as well. They've gone back and forth for a long time, though. This is nothing new. It's been building, quote-unquote, for a long time. So if it does lead to a match, I guess it makes sense. I'm not sure. I mean, Pat McAfee, a former football player, but not a professional wrestler. If anyone can get a good match out of him, it would be an Adam Cole. Not exactly a match, like I said, that I would like to see. That's just me. But anyway, it was absolutely a work. There was no way, in my opinion, that it was any way a shoot at all. It was clearly, the fact that he was fucking asking Adam Cole, oh, you got to get your matches won. You have to have your matches, interfered by the rest of the Undisputed Era. You never retain that title on your own. They were working in storyline shit there. I'm sure they will replay the footage tonight on NXT, but I am 120% convinced it was a work. But kudos to them for making people think it was real, which is cool. It was a very well done angle, but it was very obviously not a shoot. It was absolutely not real. At Jeremy8911 from Twitter, his first question was, after what happened on Raw, do you see this version of Asuka possibly happening to get revenge on Sasha Banks and Bayley? So he included a picture of Asuka with like the Joker clown makeup from Japan, from when before she joined WWE. I think that'd be awesome. Asuka has lost her edge for a while now. She kind of got it back when she became Raw Women's Champion. And as much as I enjoyed the Kabuki Warriors, I fucking hated the dumb flute that Kyrie Sane would play. It's adorable and all, don't get me wrong. But, like, it was not intimidating whatsoever. They were just fucking annoying. Like, the green mist is fine. The whole dancing thing, it's not intimidating. It doesn't make me hate Asuka. It doesn't even really make me like her. It's just fucking annoying. So we haven't really seen that aggressive Asuka since her NXT days. We kind of saw it a little bit early on in her main roster run, but I'm talking like late NXT Asuka. The matches with Nikki Cross and Mickie James and Ember Moon, those matches were great. That's the Asuka that I want to see on Raw. It's been years since we've seen that. I don't think we're getting it back. It wasn't exactly the Asuka from Japan with the whole makeup thing and whatever that you included a picture of, but hey, that'd be cool. Honestly, like, she's been doing the makeup now for a while with the green mist, and it's a nice development for her character after doing the same thing for a while there before last year. Anything to get her the belt back, because, you know, I'll save my thoughts on the Sasha and Bayley thing for later, just because a lot of people asked about it. But hey, if this whole thing with Kyrie Sane leaving WWE and Asuka losing the Raw Women's Championship is enough to get her aggressive and intense again, then I'm all for it. Jeremy's third question, should Big E win the Royal Rumble and we get the Fiend versus Big E for the Universal Championship at WrestleMania with Big E winning? Now, I can sit here and say that sounds ridiculous, I can't take that seriously, blah, blah, blah. But lest we forget, had you told me 2 years ago that Kofi Kingston would be facing Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania and winning, I also would have called you crazy. So anything can happen with enough fan support, and it's different with Kofi because Kofi had those amazing reactions there for a while. I mean, the New Day has always been popular, but Kofi specifically, coming out of that gauntlet match, the Elimination Chamber performance, and on the SmackDowns leading up to WrestleMania, he was one of the most over guys in the entire company, if not the most over guy in the entire company. And I say guy because Becky Lynch was also really, really, really popular at that point. But if Big E could have similar success, and again, there's no audiences right now, so it might be a bit different. We might get more fans, actual fans in the building by WrestleMania, who knows. But I don't hate the idea. I absolutely will not hate on that idea. First of all, because Big E is great. Second of all, because he is absolutely deserving of some sort of a singles push, which was teased on SmackDown last week, which I appreciate. And third of all, I'm all for building up new stars. Now, I don't know how old Big E is. He might actually be the youngest of all three of them, of Xavier, Kofi, and himself. He might be the youngest, if I'm not mistaken. He's not 25, but he is still on the younger side. He's a fresh face in the main event scene. SmackDown, God forbid they need new stars. And they have a lot of talented people, but they're not building enough of them up to be main event talent. People like Miz and Morrison, they could be WWE champion right now, in my opinion, but they've been positioned as a joke to the point where it's hard to take them seriously. Big E is literally a joke just because they've done this comedy thing with the New Day for so long now. But like Kofi, he can be serious when he wants to. And I think people can buy into that. So absolutely, I could absolutely see that happening. With enough fan support, with the right push, I could definitely see that being a possibility. Will this be a case where Vince gets, high on the idea of Big E as a single star for 2 weeks, loses interest, and then pushes him right back down to the tag team ranks? Absolutely. We could see that too. We could see him challenge AJ for the Intercontinental Championship at an upcoming pay-per-view or on SmackDown, lose, and then go back to teaming with Kofi. I would really not like to see that. I would like to see them stick with Big E as a single star, just because the New Day thing, as we've said many, many, many times before, I love the New Day. They're still popular. They still have very good matches. It's run its course, and it has run its course for a very long time now. And unlike the Usos, who were born to be a tag team, I have no interest in seeing Jimmy or Jay on their own on SmackDown as single stars, whatever. Kofi and Big E, we saw with Kofi, they can be viable single stars. And with Xavier out, now's the time to do that. So, I don't hate the idea. That's assuming the Fiend gets the belt back, which I assume he will at SummerSlam, just because if the Fiend does not beat Braun Strowman to win the Universal Championship at SummerSlam, who does? Do they wait until Roman Reigns gets back? That could be another couple of months, if not a year. Who knows? We have no idea right now. We have no clue when Roman Reigns will be back. So I wouldn't wait until Roman's back. Corbin, no thank you. Absolutely not. Jeff Hardy, but that's kind of a weird babyface and babyface dynamic there. Miz and Morrison are losers. They've tried. They've failed. I don't know. I just think The Fiend makes the most sense to take that title off of Braun. Now, who do you have beat The Fiend for the championship? This is the same question we had a year ago when he won the Universal Championship from Rollins late last year. And it ended up being Goldberg, which was fucking dumb. But now it could very well be Big E. So I don't hate the idea. I actually quite like it. And if they build up Big E enough to be a credible single star, I could definitely buy into that as being a possibility. Let's see. At Farron's53, Jared's first question, or his only question rather, who is one non-roster and one rostered person that you would like to see beat Cody for the TNT Championship? That's a great question. So 3 people come to mind. 2 uncontracted people. The first one is a pretty obvious one, Matt Cardona, the former Zack Ryder. I've seen people say, I don't like that idea. Cardona shouldn't be the one to beat shouldn't be the one to beat Rhodes for that championship. I mean, I wouldn't hate it if you lost. I think it would be cool if you won. You establish a new star right off the bat. Not really new, the guy's been around forever, but, you give him a big win. You establish him as the next big thing in the mid-card in AEW. And that's a great way to introduce the guys. So I think Cardona winning the championship would be cool. He's the first name that comes to mind. If not Cardona, I said a couple weeks ago or about a week ago when they were advertising the whole open challenge thing, and it ended up being Eddie King. I was a Kofi Kingston. It ended up being Eddie Kingston, which was awesome. I said James Storm. Now a lot of people may not be interested to see that. Whatever. We just had him on Wrestle Rant Radio for 2 straight weeks a couple of weeks ago, so I am biased, but it's something that I would love to see. He mentioned that he is not currently under contract anywhere. Now, he is one half of the NWA Tag Team Champions. I think their contracts are structured in a way where they can't appear elsewhere. Eddie Kingston, for example, as far as I know, even though they haven't run shows in months, is still part of the NWA. Yet he still was able to appear on Dynamite last week. James Storm, or his current tag team partner in the NWA, Eli Drake. Eli Drake coming out, beating Cody for that championship, I think would be fucking sick. Because Eli Drake is a guy that any company should be wanting to have right now. The guy's a star. He is in the NWA, which is cool, but I want to see him on a bigger platform eventually. And I think he had talks with AEW. It just didn't exactly work out. I know he had talks with WWE as well. I don't have enough faith that WWE would do right by the guy after they fired him the first time a number of years ago. But AEW, I think he could be a real player. So, Eli Drake, or I was just about to say EC3 as well. EC3 showing up. And yeah, he's an Impact right now, but what's stopping him from doing both? I don't know if that's possible. Maybe it could be. Maybe he's not working on a contract with Impact. He's only there for a short time, and then he shows up on Dynamite. That would be fucking cool, too. Him beating Cody for the championship, hey, I'd be all for it. For a rostered person, for someone under contract currently at AEW that I would like to see beat Cody for the championship, the first and only name that comes to mind is Darby Allin. So I know I mentioned Ryder and Storm and Drake and all these other people, but the person that I want to see beat Rhodes for the championship is not any of those free agents, but rather Darby Allin, because it just makes the most sense. The guy has never before beaten Cody. They've had, 3 matches now? He lost all of them. The first one was a draw at Fyter Fest last year. And the other 2 matches, one I think was on the first episode of Dynamite earlier this year at the onset of 2020, the New Year's Day edition, and he lost that. And then they fought again, I think in the semifinals of the AEW TNT Championship Tournament, and lost there as well. Darby Allin needs a championship at some point. He's another guy that's too popular for them to not do anything with. And yeah, right now he's feuding with Brian Cage, and that's cool. But at some point, the guy's got to win a belt, and that to me would make the most sense. So I would like to see Allin finally get that big win over Cody, maybe as a heel. Maybe Cody goes heel before then, and Allin has to work even that much harder to be an underdog and win that championship. So that's really what I want to say. Storm and Drake and EC3 and Cardona would be cool, but I think the person should be Cody for that championship, maybe not anytime soon, maybe in another few months or so, should be Darby Allin. At Reborn Again, John Ritland from the YouTube machine. Check out his channel, Real Honesty with John Ritland. Great content as always. His first question was, all right, why does WWE keep giving Asuka a raw deal whenever she gains momentum on the main roster? Also, do you think they'll be smart enough to let her become what she was in Japan, or will they just mess it up again? So going back to the Japan thing, excuse me, boy can I talk today. I don't think they will, just because I feel like if they were going to, they would have by now. Because Asuka's been in this company for how long? 5 years? She was in NXT for 2 years. She's been in the main roster for almost 3. I think longer, actually, than she was in NXT, which is crazy when you think about it. She's been in the main roster longer. And she's had a lot of success. She has done every imaginable accolade in this company. Aside from winning the WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal. Aside from that, who gives a shit? She's done everything. She's won Money in the Bank. She's won the Royal Rumble. She won the Raw Women's, SmackDown Women's, WWE Women's Tag Team, and NXT Women's Championships. And I thought there was something else that I thought, oh, she did win. It was like some important achievement. I'm blanking now. Went undefeated. There was something else. Won the Rumble, won Money in the Bank. Wasn't there a third thing that she did? Oh, she was like the sole survivor at Survivor Series or some shit. I don't know. But she's done a lot. She's had a lot of success in WWE. The one thing they haven't done with her yet, though, is what you guys mentioned with the face paint that she was using in Japan. I would love to see it. Will they do it? Probably not. As far as them giving her a raw deal, and whenever she gains momentum, they kind of cut her legs right from underneath her. I completely agree. It's been a start and stop push constantly for Asuka on the main roster for the last 3 years. You know, she arrives, she was pushed heavily for a number of months, she loses to Charlotte at WrestleMania. Why? Because they wanted to build Charlotte up to be a threat to Ronda Rousey for the next year's WrestleMania. That was a fucking mistake. Asuka should not have tapped out to Charlotte. I guess it was better than having her, suffer her first loss to Carmella or some shit, but it was still a joke. So that was a joke. She was eventually, I don't want to say buried, but phased out for the better part of 2018. She did nothing on SmackDown for the first 6 or 7 months that she was there for. Eventually won the SmackDown Women's Championship, gets this big push until she doesn't. She was barely on TV while she was champion. Eventually loses the championship to Charlotte mere weeks before WrestleMania. Goes back to doing nothing for a long time. Teams up with Kyrie. Goes back to doing nothing for a long time. Finally win the tag team titles late in 2019. They have a pretty good run before they go on to do nothing again with Asuka. The Becky feud was great, but they go on again to do nothing with Asuka. She becomes the Raw Women's Champion. She has a pretty decent reign. The matches with Nia were okay. She beat Charlotte. The Extreme Rules match was great. The outcome was terrible. The booking of the finish was terrible, but whatever. And now she's no longer the Raw Women's Champion. And why? For the Bayley and Sasha story? I don't think it was worth sacrificing Asuka's Raw Women's Championship reign for. Now, she could very well go on to win the belt back. She could very well go on to SummerSlam or even next week's fucking Raw. She can go on to Raw next week, invoke a rematch clause if they're even still doing that shit. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Most of the time they don't. They said a couple of years ago that shit was gone. They're not doing it anymore. That hasn't stopped them from doing title rematches anyway. But anyway, so she could show up next weekend Raw, demand a rematch, and then win the belt back there. I guess. But what the fuck do we even do at SummerSlam at this point? With Kyrie out of the picture, do you do Sasha and Asuka again? I mean, the matches are great, but the booking has been completely terrible. And then you have Asuka. I mean, I just don't think that really serves much of a purpose. I feel like that pay-per-view is the time to do Shayna and Asuka. Then you have Shayna beat Asuka. That, to me, makes more sense than Sasha winning the championship, because Ember Moon said it on Twitch just last night. And honestly, I don't disagree with what she said. She was saying there are too many women sitting at home to just put all your championships on 2 people. Now, I know Becky was a dual champion for a while. It lasted a month. Maybe the Bayley-Sasha thing won't last more than a month as well. But I feel like there are a lot of women they aren't already doing enough with. Like Ruby's got her own story going. That's great. She's got her own story going right now on Raw. That's awesome. Bianca they could be doing more with. Shayna they could be doing more with. Naomi, God forbid. Jesus Christ, they could be doing so much more with Naomi. With how much people want to see her pushed and whatnot. And she is very, very good. She's not the best they have, but she's very, very good, and they could be doing more with her as well. I completely agree. The whole 2-woman power trip thing, it's cool, but how long is it really going to be cool for? A week? A couple days? I feel like people are already sick of it. I hated the finish the Monday show. Having Banks win a belt by fucking count out, I thought was dumb. Asuka should not be losing, and I guess that kind of protected her, but it's trying to serve too many masters. It's their way of putting the belt on Banks without beating Asuka. But it makes Asuka look like a complete idiot. Yeah, I guess she cared more about Kyrie than the championship. But then if that's the case, I don't want Asuka coming back down on Raw this week saying, oh, you never beat me for my belt, blah, 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 blah. It's like, obviously didn't give a fuck about the belt if you just walked off when Kyrie could have very well handled her own business. It's not like Kyrie was about to get, shot or something. She got thrown into a sidewall in the back by Bayley. And Asuka was about to beat Sasha anyway. That's what doesn't make sense to me. Beat Sasha, then run backstage. It's just stupid. It was a really dumb finish. So, back to your question with Asuka. It does annoy me. I feel like, she was only really a transitional champion. She really was. Like, if Shayna won the belt, that would make more sense just because, Asuka has been dominant for a couple months. She gets pinned, and then Asuka can always go on to do something else. But I don't know. I think my issue isn't the fact just with Asuka losing the championship after 2 months. 3 months would make more sense at SummerSlam. 2 months, I feel like that's too quick. I think my bigger issue is not the fact that Asuka lost the championship, but the fact that Sasha won it. And listen, I think they could be doing a lot more with Sasha. They slept on it for so long, for so many years, that it's cool that they're finally doing something with her. My problem is that they've sacrificed the entire division for these 2 women. And how many times have I said here on the show that SmackDown Women's division is in fucking shambles because they have literally thrown everyone to Bayley and they've all lost. Everyone except for Sonya and Mandy, who have not been on the show for over a month. That's my issue with the whole thing. John's second question, between Dynamite and NXT, which do you feel is the more must-see show? Like, which one would you rather watch live or watch first if on delay? So here's my thing with that. That's a great question. Here's my thing with that. What I try to do, as I've said here on the show before, is watch one show 1 week and then watch the other show the next week. Unfortunately, there's a few circumstances that prevent me from doing that. One is if Dynamite has if they're coming off a big show and then they're advertising another really big show over NXT, I usually look at what's advertised and then go with what show I think will be bigger or better or more must-see. For example, I watched Dynamite live 2 weeks ago and Moxley faced Cage because you had a World Championship match, so that made sense to me. Last week, I was like, okay, we'll watch NXT. And Cross and Dijakovic, they had a great match in the main event. But with AEW, I'm like, they had the Cody Open Challenge. Will Zack Ryder show up? The Eddie Kingston thing was cool. They got a Falls Count Anywhere match. Jurassic Express versus Jericho and Hager. I'll watch Dynamite. So I watched Dynamite 2 weeks in a row. I'm definitely watching NXT Live tonight. I like the card they have on tap. Dynamite's going to be cool too. It always is very good. I try to switch off. That's one circumstance. The other circumstance is that Alexis just likes watching AEW more. She wants to support the newer show. I get it. I like to not be biased and watch both. If I could, I would try to watch both at the same time. We usually almost always watch the shows together, so that's not really an option. But of the two, we usually watch Dynamite first, because she likes watching AEW first. I gotta be unbiased as a writer, reporter, journalist, whatever you want to call me. I like to try to watch both. One week and one the next. Like, for example, if I've watched Dynamite the last 2 weeks live, this week and probably next week, I'll watch NXT 2 weeks in a row. I like to balance it out. That's just how I work. I am watching NXT Live tonight. But to answer your question in general, which show is more must-see? Definitely Dynamite. Just because it is the newer show. NXT I love. I've always enjoyed watching NXT. There's nothing wrong with watching NXT first. Of the two, though, I have noticed, and I will be the first to admit, that Dynamite usually has the better show of the two. NXT is rarely bad. If anything, it's just uneventful some weeks. Dynamite, it feels like they have good show after good show after good show, if not a great show. They also have their uneventful weeks, but I feel like it's more of a hit than a miss with Dynamite than it is with NXT. NXT is usually very good, but there are weeks where it's just kind of boring. Dynamite, I rarely get that feeling. And I'm the first to, say I love NXT. Of the two, I prefer NXT, honestly. But in terms of what show is more must-see, I gotta say Dynamite. His third question, at this point, has WWE jumped the shark with the whole Bayley Sasha Banks thing? Like, is it even going to matter if and when they eventually face off? So I already kind of talked about this before. But will it matter when they face off? So John and I discussed this on Twitter during Raw on Monday because I hated that fucking finish. He responded to it. The thing is that, and I've said this before, this is nothing new. You guys know this. With Bayley and Sasha, I really feel like it should have been at SummerSlam. I don't want to see it moved. God knows how many fucking times they have moved this match from this date to that date to the... How many fucking times have we heard, oh, they're going to build a Bayley and Sasha at this pay-per-view, and then they just don't? I can name at least 5 different instances where they were going to build to these two facing off at whatever event. WrestleMania 33 comes to mind. Bayley was the Raw Women's Champion. People thought we were getting Bayley and Sasha one-on-one of the show. They ended up shoehorning Charlotte and Nia in there as well. We almost got it at WrestleMania 34. They were kind of having issues going into WrestleMania. They were involved in the fucking Battle Royal instead on the pre-show. They were still having issues coming out of WrestleMania that year. It looked like they were building to a match at the Barclays Center, at SummerSlam that summer. We didn't get it then either because they were simply, putting their differences aside to become a tag team and win the tag team titles. Cute. I thought we might get it late last year when Sasha came back. We didn't get it that either. I thought we would get it at WrestleMania last year. They were tag team champions instead. I thought we would get it at WrestleMania this year. We didn't get it. Like, the list goes on and on and on, dude. It's ridiculous. And I don't give a fuck about the whole, we gotta wait till there's fans. Listen, I was of the same mindset 6 months ago. Not even, it feels like 6 months ago. 3 or 4 months ago with Drew. Wait until WrestleMania, wait until SummerSlam to have WrestleMania, combined with SummerSlam so there's fans. There's still no fans, and there's not going to be fans for a while. I feel like if you go off of, we got to wait till there's fans, then you might be fucking waiting until 2025, dude. It might be a long time until we get fans back in the building. It might be a few months, it might be 6 months, it might be a fucking year. We're not waiting a whole fucking year to get Sasha and Bayley again. I mean, at that point, I just don't give a fuck. I don't even know if people still care now to see the match after their great matches in NXT. I feel like there absolutely are people who want to see Sasha and Bayley. Are there enough as there would have been a few years ago just because it's been so long since those 2015 classics? I feel like there is less people that want to see the match now because it's been teased so many times and they just haven't done it. At this point, people just don't care. So I do not disagree with you whatsoever. I still care if they do it at SummerSlam. At this point, there's no chance they do. I saw someone tweeted me, what if they do a winner-take-all match? Absolutely not. As long as they're the tag team champions, why would they have a winner-take-all match? That sounds like fucking TNA 2.0 when they used to do that shit with Joe and Kurt Angle 13 or 14 years ago. I think Kurt was the world champion. Joe was the X Division champion. They were the tag team champions together. And they had a winner-take-all match. And then Angle was holding all 3 belts at once. He was the tag team champions by himself. It was a fucking joke. I don't want to see that with the women's division here in WWE. We don't need to have a dual champion. I hated when Becky won both belts. Becky did not need to be a dual champion. They made the most of it, and it was cool for a month. And then they wisely moved on. Put the SmackDown Women's Championship on Charlotte and then Bayley right after, and kept the Raw Women's Championship with Becky Lynch. I thought that was totally fine. So, I don't know. I'm not sure. I just don't like the idea. So with Keith Lee, I don't want to sound hypocritical. I like the idea of Keith Lee being a dual champion. That's because I could see a scenario, at least in NXT, it's one show. I don't want to see someone hold both belts and be the champion of both brands in the middle of a fucking brand split. I just feel like that makes no sense. You have enough women on both shows to have 2 different champions. When Bayley and Sasha are both the SmackDown and Raw Women's Champion, it's like it doesn't even matter. Sasha is technically a SmackDown superstar. The brand split be damned, she's still a Raw, or rather SmackDown superstar holding a Raw Championship. I think that's fucking stupid. They have enough Raw women to have their own champion without having to lean over into SmackDown and pick Sasha up and put the belt on her. I guess it's better than fucking Nia Jax, but you have Shayna doing nothing. Kyrie just left. Asuka could still be champion. You have Bianca Belair. Ruby Riott could be doing a lot more right now. There's a lot of women. I know Charlotte and Becky are out, but there are still other women not named Charlotte and Becky they could put the belts on. The fucking 4 horsewomen, dude. They gotta keep going back to this fucking well. I love them all. They gotta move on at some point. They have to move on from putting the belt on Becky and Charlotte and Sasha and Bayley. I love Bayley. Bayley's my favorite of the 4, and she's been champion for a while. They gotta move on. No one else feels remotely special because they keep going back to the same fucking well and sacrificing everybody for these 4 women. They sacrifice Shayna to Becky. They sacrifice Rhea to Charlotte. They sacrifice Naomi to Bayley. They sacrificed Asuka to Sasha Banks. You gotta move the fuck on and start building up new women. I apologize for the rant, but it's the fucking truth. Yes, with the Sasha Bayley thing, it's overdone. I'm not, like, they are entertaining. I'm a fan of both women. But I'm not a fan of where this is going. I have no idea where this is going. Usually that's a good thing here. I don't think it is. Because unless they're really trying to push some new women on the roster that I'm not aware of, where the fuck is this supposed to be going? Because you know the end game is Sasha beating Bayley for the belt as it should be. I doubt Nikki Cross wins on Friday. She feels like a loser too. I feel like Alexa's going to turn on Nikki, which is fine. Which makes sense. You could branch off and do their own story. But just, I don't know, man. I don't fucking know. I just think this whole thing is like, if they wait until WrestleMania to do the match, and I've said this before, it's not even a no fans thing. We may have no fans for WrestleMania next year. Another thing is, though, is that come WrestleMania next year, one of 3 things could happen. 1, Bayley could get hurt. 2, Sasha could get hurt. 2A, I guess, because I didn't really think about this. They just might be off TV. Sasha might get busy doing more projects. She might cry and leave again like she did last year. Or the third option, someone else might get hot and they might run with them instead. What if, Naomi's really popular right now based off what I've seen online, and Bianca as well. They're doing jack shit with them. What if WWE finally starts to push them? They're firing in all cylinders. At that point, you're not going to do Bayley and Sasha at WrestleMania. You're probably going to do, Sasha or Bayley versus either Bianca or Naomi or someone else. Or they could bring in Tessa Blanchard and they do Tessa versus Charlotte, and Bayley and Sasha are in the fucking pre-show again. I don't think waiting is the right answer. I hate it. I fucking hate it. At Iwagu91, did you know that Shelton Benjamin winning the 24/7 championship from R-Truth was the first time that he won on Raw since 2007, as well as his first singles victory in the brand since 2006. Holy shit. Now, yeah, I did hear that last stat from Solomonster. I didn't know that he won a Raw match in 2007. I guess it was a tag team match. I didn't know that. I knew that he had not won a singles match on the show since 2006, because I know that he had mentioned that on his show a couple of days ago. That's unbelievable, because when you think, yeah, recently, like I could see Shelton not winning on or on Raw recently, because the guy's been a jobber since they brought him over. He was on SmackDown for about a year or two when he first came back to the company. He won a handful of matches over there. He fucking beat Randy Orton, I'm pretty sure. Didn't he beat Randy Orton or Jeff Hardy on SmackDown like a year and a half ago? And he also beat Daniel Bryan at one point too. And then like it went nowhere. But anyway, so yeah, that's crazy. So not only that, but like he was with WWE until 2010. And I guess the reason why he never went on Raw then was because he was always on either SmackDown or ECW. He was never really on Raw. But still, that blew my mind when I heard that. Do you agree with AJ Styles that Dixie Carter ruined TNA? Absolutely, I do. But, there's a few different factors. Dixie Carter ruined TNA. She was... honestly, the woman gets a lot of shit, as she should. But, like, she also helped keep the company afloat for as long as it did until new partners took over an Anthem a couple of years ago. So for as much as we like to shit on Dixie, had it not been for Dixie and her parents' money, had it not been for Dixie Carter's mommy and daddy's money, TNA probably would have gone out of business a long time ago. So she chose to keep it afloat. The creative direction was shit, but like that's her fault. Vince Russo's a fucking clown. Him writing the show was a bad move. She was the one instructing that, so that's on her at the end of the day. Hogan helped ruin TNA. Eric Bischoff helped ruin TNA. And again, it was Dixie Carter who brought them in, but they still share some of the blame. Because them being brought in and then leaving did absolutely nothing to help TNA whatsoever. So yeah, she was a factor. She wasn't the only one responsible for TNA losing a lot of its luster from TNA from 2010 onward. But yeah, I mean, especially like in 2013 when she was always on the fucking show, it was unbearable. Like that was a big reason why people stopped watching. TNA lost its identity like once Hogan and those guys came in. But it wasn't really until like 2013, 2014, 2015 that people just gave up on the product entirely. Because Dixie Carter was always on the fucking show. And she was a terrible on-screen character. So, yeah, she gets a lot of the blame as she should. Should Chris Hero, a.k.a. or formerly known as Cassius Ohno, challenge Cody for the TNT Championship? Yeah, I think that'd be cool. I don't know if I would put the belt on him, but I think that'd be cool just because I feel like he might be a better fit there. I loved him in NXT UK. I think firing that guy was a really dumb decision just because you could have reunited him with Cesaro. You could have him keep doing his thing in NXT UK. He kind of reached his limit in NXT just because he had faced and lost to literally everyone on that fucking show. But like he could be a coach. He has a lot of shit to offer, so I thought letting him go was a dumb decision on WWE's part. But he could still go. He's not the Chris Hero of 5-10 years ago, but you know, I would still bring him in AEW. I think he could be a really good hand here, a really good hand there. And kind of the same vein that Colt Cabana is, and Colt Cabana is more of an undercard competitor. Cassius Ohno could be a real solid mid-card guy on that show. So, yeah, him answering the open challenge I think would be really, really cool. At noob_n_co 1991, what are your thoughts on the AEW women's tournament? Will it be a huge success or will it flop? Not a fan of it. Not a fan of it. That might be an unpopular opinion, but I think it's a really stupid move to be focusing on a women's tag team tournament when your own women's division is just not in good shape. And they have a lot of good women, but Britt Baker's still out for a little while, at least another month, I think. Chris Statlander's going to be out for a long time. Two women they have been building around for a while. You have Hikaru Shida, who's great, but then who? Brandy Rhodes, she's fucking terrible. Allie has actually regressed in the ring in the last year since she joined AEW. I feel like she's actually done worse work in AEW than she did in Impact. In Impact, she didn't light the world on fire, but she had a better character progression, better matches. I have seen nothing from her in AEW that would make me think that she's been a good pickup for them at all. And I like Allie. I think that's really disappointing. The whole QT Marshall shit, I don't give a fuck. Abaddon, I don't give a fuck. Diamante, I think, is awesome. I don't think she's signed yet, but I hope they do sign her. Anna Jay, they had her lose in like her first match on Dynamite. One or two of her first matches on the show. So I don't really give a shit about her right now. Who else do they have? Sadie Gibbs, we have not seen on Dark at all. Shayna, whatever the fuck her name is, she has not been on Dark or Dynamite at all in the last couple of months. I like actually Nyla Rose. She's actually grown on me. The issue with Nyla is, well, two things. One, she's already won the championship, so it kind of feels like she's done all that she could do. And two, I hate Vicky being her manager. I fucking hate it, because I don't think Vicky should have a place as a manager on TV in 2020. No thanks. Rio, I don't give a shit about. Emi Sakura, I don't give a shit about. The well runs dry, people. They should be focusing on building up the women they have and bringing in more women for that division than a fucking women's tag team tournament. That means nothing to win a cup. Like, who gives a shit? You could say the same thing about the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, and listen, NXT Tag Team Division also sucks. Their tag team division sucks too. But like when they first started doing it, they had a very wealthy tag team division back in 2015, 2016, 2017 when they did it again, 2018, whatever. So it makes sense with NXT. It's an established tournament with a division that had more teams when they used to do it. And they have other teams in that entire company. With the women, I think it's dumb. If you want to do a women's tournament, I don't hate that idea. A women's tag team tournament is going to force them to bring in more women that just they're probably not going to sign. I mean, maybe if it leads to the signing of more women, that's fine, but like, they've signed a bunch of women already that they have done fucking nothing with. So I just don't think that's a very smart idea. I don't like the idea. I don't give a shit about who wins this deadly draw tournament. It just feels like, to me, one giant waste of time to further the storyline between Brandy and Allie, which, as I already noted, I don't give two fucks about. Brandy sucks. Allie sucks. The whole storyline sucks. I'm ready to move the fuck on to this feud. And I think dedicating an entire tournament to that shit solves absolutely nothing. Moving on, are you excited to see Warhorse face Cody for the TNT title this week on Dynamite? I don't know if excited is the right word. I am intrigued, though. I've heard a lot about this Warhorse guy. Listen, I'll be the first to admit, I have no idea who the fuck this guy is. But I will say, as I said in a tweet last week when AEW announced that it'd be Warhorse, I applaud the company because at least they're listening to the fans. The fans have been petitioning for this Warhorse guy to answer this open challenge for weeks, practically since it started. The company listened, and they're bringing him in. I think that's really cool. I have no idea who this guy is. He could very well suck, but I have no idea why he's as popular as he is. And I'm a big Ultimate Warrior guy. He looks like Ultimate Warrior, got thrown in the fucking dryer. Maybe he impresses, maybe he doesn't. But it's cool to see that if the fans want to see someone bad enough, either in the company or answer an open challenge or whatever, then the company's willing to listen. I hope that other guys get that same support, like a Ryder or an Eli Drake or a James Storm or someone like that. Someone that I would actually care to see answer the open challenge. We'll see if he sinks or swims tonight on Dynamite, but I am intrigued to see how he does. Noob's third question. Do you think WWE went a little overboard or has gone overboard with the whole Sasha Banks Bayley storyline by having them have all the women's championships? Yeah, I already said that, but yeah, they have gone overboard, absolutely. There is no reason for these two women to hold all the championships sans the NXT women's title. Like, there's already enough women they could be doing so much more with. They sacrificed Lacey Evans for this shit. They sacrificed Naomi for this shit. They sacrificed Asuka for this shit. I don't know, dude. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it at all. I think Bayley and Sasha are doing great work. The issue is that I just don't think it's doing the division any good at all. It benefits Bayley and Sasha, but at the end of the day, who else benefits? Maybe if Naomi beats Bayley, but I don't get the sense that that's where this is going. Maybe if Bianca showed up on Raw next week and was like, listen, I want to challenge you for that championship, and then she wins, cool. But I feel like it's too soon for her, too. If Shayna showed up and beat the fuck out of Sasha and won the belt, I feel like that'd be amazing. Will they do that? Probably not. With Hikaru Shida issuing an open challenge to any woman to face her for the AEW Women's title, who do you want to see her face for that championship? I would like to see her face Natalia Markova to face Shida for the title somewhere down the road. Now, I have no idea who that is. When I first read your question, I got very concerned. My heart kind of sunk a little bit in my chest when I saw Natalia. And then I saw you spell it differently, and you wrote Markova. I have no idea who that is. Apparently, she's a pro wrestler. I don't know where she came from, where she wrestles. No clue. So with the open challenge thing, I know Shida's facing Diamante tonight. That's great. I'm actually a big Diamante fan. She's very good from what I've seen of her. From the little we've seen of her in AEW, but more so in Impact a number of years ago. I think she has a good look. She can go in the ring. I would love to see her reunite an LAX-esque faction with Santana and Ortiz in AEW, rather. I think that'd be great. So aside from Diamante, Ivelisse would be a good pickup. The match last week wasn't all that good, but I think she'd be a great get for their women's division. So Ivelisse, there's just not a lot of big... I mean, obviously Tessa, but... I mean, I don't see them picking up Tessa, at least not right now. I just don't see a lot of, like, hot free agents for the women right now. Tessa easily is number one, but, like, aside from her... There's Ivelisse. I feel like everyone else that I wanted to see in either company has since been signed. NXT has a lot of them. Like, Santana Garrett they signed last year. Who else was I thinking of? I mean, I guess Kyrie Sane, but, like... Kyrie Sane is not far-fetched. If Kyrie's whole thing is that she wants to go back home, what's stopping her from going to AEW and signing a contract there? Because I think Rio, the reason why we haven't seen her on TV... is because she lives over in Japan. They only work once a week aside from the pay-per-view weekends, which is 4 times a year. Kyrie could still live in Japan, fly over for Dynamite, and do that. I think Kenny Omega's really high on Kyrie Sane from what I've seen, so that's really not a far-fetched possibility. I wouldn't hate that either. They would probably book her better than the main roster did in the last 6 to 9 months. But anyway, I wouldn't count that out as being a possibility either. So we'll see. It seems like she left on good terms, from WWE on good terms. It would be odd if she was like, hey, fuck you, WWE, I'm going to the opposition. I don't think that would happen. I mean, it could very likely happen, but It sounds more like she might do the Stardom shows just because that is in Japan. She might come back to WWE at some point, and I hope she does. But, maybe Kyrie Sane. Tessa I don't see right now. Evilise would be cool. What other women are there? Deonna Purrazzo's an Impact. I guess maybe if she could work AEW too, that'd be cool, but I don't see her coming out as the Knockouts champion losing. That'd be odd. Maybe Deonna... Sarah, what's her name? Sarah Logan? I honestly completely forgot her name, and she's been gone only for a couple months. I think she's pregnant, so she's not going to AEW. Who else even is there? I honestly don't even know. Sienna, maybe, from NWA? She's really good. Is her name still... Oh, no, her name's not Sienna anymore. I'm sorry. It's Allison Kay. That was her Impact name. That's what I know her by, but Allison Kay, yeah, maybe. That'd be kind of cool. I don't know if she's signed to a contract, or Thunder Rosa would be awesome. Again, she's their women's champion. I don't know if she has to stay exclusive to NWA. Yeah, Thunder Rosa would probably lead my list. Their next question was about Asuka being the evil clown. Like, I would love to see that. I don't think they will. I already said that before, but it would be cool if they did. At E13A, have you heard about AJ Styles being mad at Paul Heyman? I mean, how could you not? It's all over the news with AJ Styles lately. I think a lot of that stems from what happened with Gallows and Anderson and them thinking that Heyman was responsible for them getting fired. The whole thing with that, real quickly, I'm sure Heyman did play a factor in that, but if Vince really wanted to keep Gallows and Anderson, the guy makes all the rules. He makes the cuts at the end of the day. So if Vince really wanted to save their asses, he would have prevented them from getting fired. So Vince has every bit as much to do with this as Heyman does, assuming Heyman has anything to do with it. But the claims that Heyman's a liar, I mean, the grass is green, the sky is blue. That shit's been known for a long time now, dating back to his fucking ECW, WCW days, decades ago. That's nothing new. Heyman might be great as an on-air talent. Behind the scenes, he just may not be very well liked. The guy has a great mind for the business. I thought he did a decent job with Raw. But if people have issues with him, that very well may have played into the decision to not have him write Raw anymore. That could have very well been the straw that broke the camel's back for Paul Heyman writing Raw, is that people just didn't like him very much. For AJ Styles, a star of his caliber, to not just not like Paul Heyman, but to go on the record and say that he went over to SmackDown because he fucking hated this guy's guts because he's a fucking flat-out, bold-faced liar, that says a lot. That probably played into the decision to get him out of that position in writing Raw. So I don't doubt that for a second, but Heyman hasn't commented on any of this. I don't know if he's still active on Twitter or not. We haven't seen him on WWE TV since WrestleMania, since Brock lost the the WWE title to Drew McIntyre. So they said, he's going to focus on his duties as an in-ring performer, as an active performer, blah, blah, blah. We haven't seen him since that announcement was made that he was being let go as the Raw executive director. So I'm assuming we will see Paul Heyman on the show again. As long as Brock is there, I'm assuming Paul isn't going anywhere. But Paul Heyman, there's a reason why he left in the first place many years ago. I'm honestly shocked he's lasted this long back in WWE for 8 years now. But yeah, and the guy could still go out there and cut a mean promo. One of the best in the business, no doubt. But in terms of being in a position of power, he's just not very well liked. So I know, there was this whole thing like a decade ago that Heyman wanted Dixie to sell TNA to him. Hey, TNA might be dead right now had it gone to Heyman. Creatively, it might have been a great show. Financially, the guy has never been the greatest. So Impact probably, I hate to say it, but dodged the bullet by not giving the reins all to Paul Heyman 10 or so years ago. At Scarlet 1, best and worst of the Wednesday Night Wars, number 41. From NXT, I thought the Cross and Dijakovic match was great. I thought the triple threat match between Gargano, Strong, and Bronson Reed was the best match in the entire show, so I love that. And the Timothy Thatcher, Oney Lorcan match was also very, very good. The worst of NXT was kind of the first hour. I thought the first hour was kind of boring and just poopy. I thought Aaliyah and Shotzi was just not a very good match. And Shotzi's great, but Aaliyah sucks. And Breezango versus Everrise, it was a fine match, but they got to do something with Breezango. They've been around forever. They're still doing the comedy act. I thought the Mountie-esque entrance, the Mountie-inspired entrance was cool. But I don't know. I feel like they got to move on with those guys. NXT, the issue is that NXT needs more tag teams. The problem is that they're just such a joke that it's hard to care about them. From AEW, I thought the show was very good. I like Cody and Kingston. Not the greatest match, but Kingston's promo was great. I enjoyed it as an opener. The Young Bucks versus Butcher and Blade was also a very fun Falls Count Anywhere match. I usually don't give a shit about Butcher and Blade, but the match itself was actually very good. The only thing from the show I didn't actually really like, which is a shame because I was looking forward to it, was Diamante versus Ivelisse. It just wasn't a good match. It was sloppy, there was no reaction. I know there's no fans there, but like it felt like the people that were just either exhausted or they didn't give a fuck. They're two uncontracted women, so maybe that's why, but it just didn't really click for me as much as I was hoping it would. Also from @Scarlet1, how do you feel about WWE seemingly going all the way with pushing Bayley and Sasha? I already talked about this earlier, but it's just, I'm not a fan. If you're going to complain about Charlotte being shoved down our throats, how can you not complain about Bayley and Sasha? Just because it's more entertaining? Get the fuck out of here. It's the same shit. Putting all the belts on the same person. With Becky, I got it. They shouldn't have done it with her either. I agree with that, but, she wasn't appearing on every show for 2 months. Bayley and Sasha have appeared on almost every brand consecutively for like 2 or 3 months now. At least that's what it feels like. I think it's only been like a month and a half, but it feels like 6. And they're doing great work, but it's coming at the expense, and this is my issue, it's coming at the expense of the rest of the Raw and SmackDown women's divisions. That's my fucking problem with it. No one feels remotely special. That includes Asuka, Shayna, Naomi, Lacey, Alexa, Mandy, Sonya, Nikki, Bianca, Ruby, Liv, anybody. No one feels special aside from Bayley and Sasha. Charlotte and Becky maybe, but they're not there right now and they won't be for a long time. At least Becky won't be. I don't think Charlotte's going to be back for a while. She said SummerSlam, but I'm assuming it's going to be a little later than that. Just my own prediction. So that's the issue with the angle for me. And finally, how do you feel also from @Scarlet1? How do you feel about Kyrie Sane's WWE run? I always like to say, I want to say Zane as in like Sami Zayn, but it's actually Kyrie Sane. Anyway, I thought she had a good run, all things considered. Could they have done more with her? Absolutely. Kyrie should still be here. I don't know. I was thinking about this earlier when I was watching the whole Thank You Kyrie video they put out on their Twitter page earlier today. They put together this great video. It's very emotional with Asuka saying that she was lonely before Kyrie came to the main roster, and she's probably going to be lonely now that Kyrie's gone. All these people saying they're going to miss Kyrie and whatever. It was a really good video. But I was thinking while I was watching it, if Kyrie got pushed differently on the main roster, would she have stayed? I don't know. I feel like she may have, but I'm not exactly sure. Being with her family back in Japan is probably just more important to her. She just got married. That obviously is a factor. They just haven't done enough with her on the main roster to justify her staying. It's not like she hated it there. By all accounts, it seemed like she really, really liked it in WWE. And she had enough accolades to make her, her run a success. She was the inaugural Mae Young Classic winner. She won the NXT Women's Championship. She's a former a former WWE Women's Tag Team Champion, the longest reigning ever, actually. So, she had enough accolades to make the run worthwhile. She had a lot of great matches with Shayna. I don't know. On the main roster, she didn't really have a lot of standout matches. She had some good matches with Becky, some good tag team matches. NXT was really where she shined initially, but yeah, she should have had more success. She should have been a bigger star. They just didn't see her in that role for whatever reason. At least Vince, that is, didn't. She's one of the best in the world, so it sucks that they lost her. But, had they brought her in and pushed her to the moon, I don't know if she would have stayed. I think the family thing is just more important to her, so I don't know. It's really hard to say. She may go to Dynamite. She might go to AEW, like I said. I am not exactly sure because she could still live in Japan and then fly into the States if she wanted to. But the thing is that I feel like with what it was being rumored earlier this year, late last year with Kyrie, is that her, at least, especially Io being on NXT, they're not getting paid a lot. They're two of the best women's wrestlers in the world. Kyrie, I don't know how much she's getting paid, if she's still getting paid the same amount she was in NXT. I just get the sense it wasn't a lot. And Stardom would probably pay her a lot more to be in Japan, to not have to travel as much. So she made a lot of money out of going to WWE, which is great. Built her name. I now know who she is. I kind of knew her previously a little bit from her time in, she was in Lucha for like one episode, Lucha Underground, but she had a great showing on that show against Pentagon Jr. So anyway, she could always come back. I hope she does. But she had a good run. I can't say it was a failure being a former tag team champion, NXT Women's Champion, Mae Young Classic winner, always on TV. The Nia shit aside, she had a pretty good run. Alongside Asuka and the Kabuki Warriors were great. That exceeded my expectations. I just don't know what would have convinced her to stay. If she got a bigger push, if she was a bigger star on her own, maybe. But that's not anywhere near confirmed. I doubt she's not going to be on doing shoot videos on Talk is Jericho. Not going to be doing shoot interviews on Talk is Jericho saying, oh, I fucking hated it over there. I don't anticipate that happening. But it is interesting. I think she had a good run, and I'm looking forward to seeing what she does next. And that's going to do it, guys, for episode 348 of #AskGSM here today for Wednesday, July 29, 2020. Thank you guys, as always, for checking out the video. I appreciate it. Big news coming on the front of nextairwrestling.net, my website. Be sure to check that out for more information. Not right now, but the big announcement should be coming very, very soon in the next, I'm hoping, week or so. So stay tuned to nextairwrestling.net for more on that. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews. On the post that I usually, and hopefully I'll remember next week, the post that I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And you can always do that. If the post isn't up, by the way, you can always create a post on the wall itself. I think if that's still an option. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section in this very video. I'll include your questions in next week's edition. And last but certainly not least, once again, check out my exclusive interview right now with WWE NXT's own Johnny Gargano, one of the greatest stars, if not the greatest star in the history of the brand, right now on DailyDDT.com, talking his match tonight on NXT with Roderick Strong, talking his NXT run working with Candice LeRae. We talk Disney Plus, we talk Marvel, we talk a lot of cool stuff. If we'll see his dog, Padme, on NXT TV at some point. It's a great chat up right now on DailyDDT.com. Another exclusive interview coming up this week, not for Daily DDT, but for Bleacher Report on Friday. So more on that announcement going up tomorrow on my Twitter page at WrestleRant at, I'm thinking, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Have a great one, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy NXT and Dynamite tonight. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.